When people hear the name B-2 Spirit, they usually imagine a sleek black triangle silently slicing across the sky, invisible to radar, carrying weapons powerful enough to alter the course of a war. It's one of those machines that seems less like a piece of technology and more like something from the future, a ghostly presence built for missions most of us will never fully understand. But behind the futuristic design, there's a much more grounded story, one that doesn't usually make the headlines. It's the story of the pilots who fly this bomber for missions that can last not just hours, but entire days. Think about it. Most of us find a 6-hour plane ride exhausting. We shuffle into a cramped seat, fidget with the seatbelt, complain about the lack of legroom, and desperately wait for the next snack cart to roll down the aisle. By the time we land, we're sore, tired, and ready to stretch our legs. Now stretch that discomfort to 30 hours straight, except you're not a passenger. You're the one responsible for controlling a multi-billion-dollar aircraft that must remain undetected while carrying out a mission that could affect global security. That's the life of a B-2 pilot. Unlike commercial jets, there's no break from responsibility in the cockpit of a Spirit. Every button, every dial, every change in the sky demands attention. And while the aircraft itself is designed for endurance, the pilots are human beings with human limits. They get hungry, they get thirsty, their bodies ache from sitting in the same position too long. Their minds wander, fatigue creeps in, and yet they cannot afford to let their focus waver for even a second. The B-2 is extraordinary in part because it is so unforgiving. There is no autopilot in the sense that you can completely let go. There is no flight attendant to bring a hot meal or refill a drink. There is no place to stretch out, no aisle to walk, no overhead lights dimming to remind you it's time for rest. Inside the cockpit, there are only 2 seats, 2 pilots, and the knowledge that everything depends on their ability to stay sharp and disciplined for the entire length of the mission. This is where the human side of stealth flying reveals itself. It's not just about staying invisible to radar, it's about keeping 2 very visible, very human people alive, alert, and functioning. A mission is only as strong as the weakest moment of fatigue, and so pilots have to prepare as carefully for their own bodies as they do for the aircraft. Meals have to be packed with precision, snacks chosen with care, drinks rationed just enough to keep hydrated without creating discomfort. Even rest is tactical, parceled out in short windows so that one can close their eyes while the other maintains control. And here's the thing, this isn't a luxury problem. It's not a matter of convenience, it's a matter of survival. If a pilot loses focus, even for a heartbeat, the consequences could be catastrophic. The B-2 may be able to glide across oceans undetected, but it still depends entirely on its crew. That's why stories from inside the cockpit are often just as dramatic as the technology itself. Behind the black silhouette against the night sky is the quieter drama of people eating from ration packs, stretching in their seats, trading off moments of sleep, and relying on each other to endure. It's easy to forget that in the end, the most advanced bomber in the world is still flown by human beings. And human beings are not machines. They can't run endlessly without food, water, or rest. They need to plan their meals. They need to strategize their energy. They need to turn that cockpit into a living space, even if it's only the size of a small van. That's why in this deep dive, we're going to explore the B-2 Spirit from a very different angle. We won't just talk about stealth systems, global reach, or advanced avionics, though all of those things matter. Instead, we're going to step inside the cockpit, sit in one of those 2 cramped seats, and live alongside the pilots. We're going to look at the food they bring, the way they manage fatigue, the tricks they use to stay sane during a mission that feels endless. We'll explore how something as simple as a cup of coffee or a protein bar can become a lifeline in the sky. The B-2 may be a machine built for war, but the experience of flying it is deeply human. And that human story, the hunger, the exhaustion, the discipline, and the small victories of getting through 1 more hour is what makes the Spirit not just an icon of technology, but a reminder of what people can endure when duty calls them higher than the clouds. When most people hear about a B-2 Spirit mission lasting close to 30 hours, their thoughts immediately jump to fuel, flight paths, and the mechanics of keeping a jet airborne. And it's true, the aircraft itself is astounding, capable of circling the globe with the right aerial refueling support. But for the pilots, the challenge isn't just the plane. It's staying awake, alert, and mentally sharp inside a confined cockpit. And to do that, they need food. Not gourmet meals or fancy catering, just sustenance that supports endurance, focus, and reaction time. Inside the cockpit, space is limited. There's barely room for the 2 ejection seats, essential instruments, and a small storage area. There's no aisle to stroll down, no galley with warm trays, no room to stretch. Everything must serve a purpose. That includes food. Meals and snacks are pre-planned, carefully chosen, and optimized for the long hours ahead. Every bite, every sip has a reason behind it, whether it's providing energy, hydration, or a psychological break from the monotony. Sandwiches are the backbone of the B-2 menu. Lean meats on soft bread, wrapped neatly to avoid crumbs, easy to eat in the cramped environment, and portable enough to handle during flight. They're practical, filling, and low maintenance. Alongside sandwiches, pilots rely on energy bars, protein packs, nuts, and dried fruit. These small, concentrated sources of calories provide quick bursts of energy without causing digestive sluggishness or sugar crashes. They're consumed in small, deliberate portions, marking the passage of time across the mission. Each bite becomes a subtle milestone, a reminder that hours are passing and that the body is being cared for. Hydration is equally vital. The cockpit is a dry environment, with air filtered and recycled, so pilots sip water continuously. Electrolyte drinks are added strategically to maintain balance and prevent fatigue. Caffeinated beverages, from coffee to energy drinks, are reserved for high-demand moments just before a complex maneuver or during long, uneventful stretches when focus begins to waver. The timing of every sip, every swallow, is as critical as the content of the snack itself. Too much caffeine too soon can lead to jitters or crashes, while too little may result in drowsiness at a critical phase of flight. Eating isn't merely functional, it's part of the mental rhythm of the mission. Meals are scheduled around key mission events. During aerial refueling, for instance, pilots avoid food to prevent distractions. When the flight enters long stretches of steady cruising, a quick warm meal might be taken from the small galley kit, vacuum-sealed entrees, instant oatmeal, or pre-made sandwiches. Even the small onboard microwave becomes a lifeline, breaking monotony, providing comfort, and acting as a psychological checkpoint that divides the mission into manageable segments. There's a human side to it too. Sharing a handful of trail mix, passing over a piece of fruit, or joking about a slightly squashed sandwich helps maintain morale. Even when two pilots are shoulder to shoulder, the mission can feel isolating, and these little interactions create a sense of normalcy. They remind the crew that despite operating one of the world's most advanced stealth bombers, they are still human beings with basic needs and social instincts. Practicality governs every motion. Pilots must eat carefully, keeping crumbs and liquids away from sensitive controls and instruments. Each gesture, unwrapping a bar, opening a drink, sipping water, is deliberate, practiced during training hundreds of times. Turbulence or unexpected maneuvers add another layer of challenge. A spilled drink could interfere with electronics, a loose wrapper could jam switches. The pilot's every action around food is calculated to avoid disruption to either the mission or the aircraft systems. Food also structures time. 30 hours in a cockpit can feel like a blur without defined markers. Each meal or snack is a milestone. Bite at hour 6, energy bar at hour 10, coffee at hour 15. These moments provide a rhythm to the day, or rather, the continuous stretch of flight, helping the crew segment the mission into manageable pieces. Meals are not indulgent pauses. They're practical, functional events that keep mind and body in sync with the demands of flying a high-stakes aircraft. By the end of the flight, the pilots have consumed enough sustenance to maintain focus, reaction time, and overall stamina, all without letting their attention drift. The B-2's sophisticated technology is critical, but it cannot replace human endurance. The pilot's careful management of food, drink, and micro-breaks ensures that the aircraft remains under steady control and that critical decisions are made with clarity, even 30 hours after takeoff. Ultimately, the food plan in a B-2 is simple in appearance, but intricately designed. It blends psychology, physiology, and practicality. Small, frequent snacks, timed meals, strategic caffeine, and continuous hydration. This system keeps the pilots' minds sharp and their bodies functional, creating the foundation that allows them to operate one of the most advanced aircraft in the world for more than a day straight. In the end, the stealth bomber may be cutting-edge technology, but inside, it's sustained by the ordinary: sandwiches, nuts, and the steady rhythm of small, deliberate meals that fuel both the human crew and the mission itself. Operating the B-2 Spirit is unlike any other experience in aviation. Unlike commercial airliners, where the focus is largely on maintaining a steady course and managing passengers, or fighter jets, where agility and speed dominate, the B-2 demands a balance of endurance, mental precision, and constant attention. The aircraft itself is a masterpiece of engineering, a flying wing whose form is as alien as it is functional. Its design, which allows it to evade radar detection, also creates inherent instability. Pilots don't just fly the jet, they partner with it, guiding a machine whose behavior is subtly assisted by a complex network of computerized systems. For nearly 30 hours, two humans share a cockpit no larger than a small office, navigating a machine that represents not just technological achievement, but national strategic capability. From the moment a pilot enters the cockpit, the reality of the B-2 mission becomes apparent. The interior is compact and highly functional: dual ejection seats, essential instruments, communication systems, and minimal storage. There is no room to wander, no galley for meals, and certainly no place to recline for comfort. Every inch is devoted to flight systems, controls, and mission-critical equipment. Pilots learn early that in this environment, space is a commodity, attention is a currency, and patience is indispensable. The cockpit becomes a world unto itself, a combination of command center, laboratory, and endurance chamber where focus must never waver. The Spirit's handling is unlike any conventional aircraft. Traditional stabilizers, both vertical and horizontal, are absent. The flying wing is inherently unstable. Without computer assistance, the aircraft would not maintain level flight. Fly-by-wire technology corrects for instability hundreds of times per second. The pilot's role is not brute force control, but careful guidance, ensuring the aircraft responds accurately to commands while maintaining stealth and performance. Every minor adjustment, slight aileron movement, subtle pitch correction is amplified across the enormous wingspan. Over long distances and extended hours, these micro-decisions accumulate, demanding unrelenting concentration. Despite the automation, mental strain is a constant companion. Pilots must balance long stretches of monotony, monitoring fuel, scanning instruments, and tracking navigation data with sudden bursts of high-intensity activity. The shift from calm observation to critical maneuvering can happen in seconds, lining up for an aerial refueling, avoiding unexpected weather systems, or adjusting to updated mission parameters. Each transition demands immediate focus, and over 30 hours, the mental toll is significant. Pilots train extensively to maintain sharpness, breaking the mission into cycles of observation, checklists, and communication to prevent lapses in attention. Teamwork in the B-2 is essential. The two pilots on board operate almost as a single organism. One handles navigation and systems monitoring, while the other manages communications, radar inputs, or environmental controls. Roles shift seamlessly depending on the stage of flight, and each pilot continuously monitors the other for signs of fatigue, distraction, or physical strain. Over the duration of the mission, their coordination becomes instinctive. Each understands the other's mental and physical state, compensating when necessary. Trust is absolute, because any lapse, no matter how small, can endanger the aircraft, the mission, or both pilots' lives. Physical endurance is another critical element. The cockpit is not spacious, and the pilots remain strapped into their seats for nearly 30 hours. Micro breaks are limited to short stretches, wrist rotations, shoulder adjustments, and posture shifts, all carefully choreographed to maintain circulation and prevent fatigue. Hydration, strategic caffeine intake, and timed meals are carefully managed, ensuring both alertness and comfort. Muscles stiffen, minds tire, and yet pilots must maintain precision at all times. Every movement becomes a small ritual of survival, a method of staying functional in a confined, high-stakes environment. Strategic pressure intensifies the mental and physical challenges. Each flight carries national-level significance. The B-2 can deliver precision strikes anywhere on the globe, and every mission is part of a broader defense and deterrence strategy. Pilots understand that mistakes, even minor ones, could have consequences far beyond the cockpit. Unlike commercial aviation, where a flight may be interrupted or reassigned, or fighter operations where a sortie is over in a few hours, the B-2 mission demands complete commitment. There is no relief crew, no chance to step away. The two pilots are responsible for every mile flown, every maneuver executed, and every system monitored. Stealth operations further complicate matters. The B-2 is designed to avoid detection, requiring strict adherence to flight paths and operational silence. Pilots often operate for hours in darkness over empty ocean or uninhabited terrain, with the only sounds being the soft hum of the engines and the occasional transmission. Outside stimuli are minimal, heightening the sense of isolation. Yet this isolation is paradoxically paired with immense responsibility. The lives of both crew and mission success depend on vigilance, even when the cockpit feels removed from the world. Despite the intensity, human interaction remains essential. Brief conversations, lighthearted jokes, or switching cockpit audio are small but vital ways to maintain morale and focus. These interactions prevent the psychological strain of isolation from compromising performance. They remind pilots that despite the advanced technology surrounding them, they are human beings with the need for connection, humor, and a shared sense of purpose. Aerial refueling is one of the most complex and exacting aspects of a mission. Mid-air connections with tanker aircraft demand flawless timing, steady hands, and constant communication. Both aircraft move at hundreds of miles per hour, sometimes in turbulent conditions, while the pilots guide fuel lines to connect precisely. These events are a brief pause in the relentless routine of the mission, allowing a moment to verify systems and adjust strategies. But they are not breaks. Alertness remains paramount. Landing after a near 30-hour mission brings relief, yet requires acute focus. Fatigue and physical strain peak as pilots guide the aircraft through approach, descent, and touchdown. Even minor errors are magnified after such prolonged exertion. When the wheels finally meet the runway, pilots experience the simultaneous weight of exhaustion and accomplishment. 30 hours of vigilance, teamwork, and endurance culminate in this precise moment. The aircraft is home safely, the mission completed, and both human and machine have performed at the highest level. Flying the B-2 Spirit is not glamorous. There are no dramatic dogfights or thrilling aerobatics. Instead, it is a study in endurance, coordination, and exacting precision. Every minute is structured, every action deliberate, every decision crucial. The technology is extraordinary, but the human skill, discipline, and resilience required to operate it are the true marvel. For 30 hours, pilots navigate the invisible, manage the unseen, and maintain the impossible. They are the heartbeat of a machine that represents both power and strategy. a reminder that even the most advanced aircraft depends on human endurance, focus, and courage. A B-2 mission doesn't follow a conventional clock. 30 hours in the air isn't just long, it's a stretch that can twist your sense of day and night, of time itself. Pilots don't get a sunrise or a sunset to mark progress. Instead, they live by the patterns they create for themselves. The routine in a stealth bomber cockpit is not a series of rigid steps written in a manual. It's a flexible, self-imposed rhythm designed to keep minds sharp, bodies functional, and the jet on course. Every element, from eating to monitoring instruments, becomes part of a delicate choreography that keeps 30 hours from collapsing into exhaustion. The groundwork for this rhythm begins well before takeoff. Mission briefings are exhaustive. Pilots absorb weather forecasts, refueling plans, target coordinates, and emergency contingencies in layers. Each piece of data is logged, memorized, and mentally mapped. There is no opportunity to step away once airborne. The preparation is part ritual, part mental warm-up. Pilots hydrate, stretch, and mentally rehearse what could go right and what could go catastrophically wrong. Even these hours on the ground carry a weight that only intensifies once the engines ignite. Once the B-2 leaves the runway, the cockpit transforms into a self-contained universe. The jet hums steadily, the low vibration a constant companion. Outside, the sky stretches endlessly, sometimes illuminated by starlight, sometimes drowned in clouds or pitch-black darkness. For hours, nothing dramatic may occur. These long stretches of quiet are a true test of discipline. Pilots scan instruments constantly, check navigation systems, monitor communications, and review fuel levels. Even subtle deviations, engine temperature, pressure readings, or system alerts can demand immediate attention. The mind must remain engaged despite monotony, and the routine becomes the scaffold that prevents mental drift. Pilots alternate responsibilities to maintain alertness. One takes the lead on flying while the other monitors systems, communications, and navigation. Then they swap roles. It's not mechanical or timed, but a silent agreement born from experience. Never let both minds wander at once. These cycles, repeated endlessly across hours, form the backbone of operational safety. Between tasks, conversation provides mental breaks. Jokes, stories, or quiet observations inject humanity into the mission. At other times, silence is necessary. Both pilots need it to focus, to rest briefly without losing connection to the aircraft or each other. Meals punctuate the mission in a surprisingly deliberate way. The act of eating is not indulgence, it's structure. A sandwich or protein bar becomes a landmark. Meal at hour 6, snack at hour 10, coffee at hour 15. Timing matters as much as the content. Heavy food can induce fatigue, sugar can cause crashes, and messy meals must be avoided during delicate maneuvers like aerial refueling. Each bite, each sip, is part of a measured approach to sustaining energy and clarity over the marathon flight. The shared act of passing a bag of trail mix or joking about a crushed sandwich reminds both pilots that they are still human, not just operators of a multi-billion-dollar machine. Short periods of rest are carefully integrated into the routine. The cockpit doesn't allow for sleeping bags or beds, but micro breaks, eyes closed, deep breaths, mental zoning offer temporary relief. 10 minutes of shut-eye, a quiet moment to lean back, or a pause in conversation can refresh the mind just enough to maintain focus on the next system check or radio transmission. The pilots constantly gauge each other, reading subtle signs of fatigue and stress, adjusting the pace of conversation or work accordingly. Their alertness is not just individual, it's mutual. Each is responsible for the other's well-being as much as for the aircraft itself. Physical maintenance is equally essential. 30 hours in a confined cockpit can strain muscles, stiffen joints, and sap energy. Pilots use every available opportunity to shift posture, stretch shoulders, rotate wrists, and perform small exercises that maintain circulation. It isn't glamorous, but it is effective. These tiny movements, repeated throughout the mission, keep the body functional and alert, preventing the creeping stiffness and discomfort that can turn concentration into a struggle. The rhythm of the mission is also measured by external events. A refueling rendezvous, a system check prompted by changing weather, or a sudden course adjustment introduces a spike in intensity that punctuates the routine. Pilots plan their energy around these peaks, conserving focus and stamina in anticipation. Even the unpredictable elements are folded into a larger pattern, the ebb and flow of attention, rest, and responsibility across the mission. By the midpoint, fatigue is a real factor. Pilots become adept at reading themselves and each other. Tiny signs, a pause, a sigh, a slight lapse in monitoring are immediately noted and corrected. Communication remains concise but meaningful, a tool for maintaining shared awareness. Meals, microbreaks, and conversation are all woven into this rhythm, creating a structure that can withstand nearly 30 hours of confinement and concentration. Finally, landing marks the transition from the artificial rhythm of the flight to the natural cycles of life on the ground. Even after wheels touch the runway, pilots continue a post-mission routine, debriefing, logging observations, stretching, hydrating, and gradually reintroducing normal sleep patterns. The 30-hour marathon leaves a lingering fatigue, but also the satisfaction of a mission completed, systems maintained, and aircraft returned safely. The routine that carried them through isolation, monotony, and intensity dissolves, replaced by the simple, grounding rhythm of post-flight recovery. The magic of the B-2 routine isn't glamour or excitement. It's the ordinary, persistent application of focus, care, and human coordination inside an extraordinary machine. It's a rhythm created to survive an extraordinary challenge, a blend of structure, human insight, and endurance that turns a daunting 30-hour flight into a mission that is not just survivable, but successfully accomplished.